Get fast, reliable internet for any budget. Now qualifying customers can get Xfinity Internet free through the Affordable Connectivity Program. That's right, free high-speed internet from Xfinity. And Internet Essentials customers can get equipment included at no extra cost. Get started today.
We change our minds every day. About 1 million things a day. This is no different. You can't be afraid to be wrong. You can't be afraid to say, you know what, I'm just going to rethink this thing. People are not dying getting the vaccine. I better rethink this thing. I'm going to go call my doctor and have a discussion one more time. It is okay to change your mind.
Moms and dads, listen, you're not the problem, but you are part of the solution. And this podcast is here to help you reach with your troubled child. Known as the teen whisperer, Jason Clopton counsels young adults and has a proven track record of reaching kids when parents can't. Listen and take notes. This show will help you figure out what's bugging your baby and build a bridge to a better relationship with your kids.
Greetings, everybody, and welcome back to another installment of the Teen Whisperer podcast. I am Brandon Jones, and I'm filling in for Brother Jason. And on today's podcast, we're going to go down a little journey. We're going to do a series. We're going to talk about something that's called emotional intelligence. This is something that has been around for a couple of decades now. A lot of people who spent time in the self-help or self-development areas of their life have probably run across this concept of social emotional intelligence. But we're going to put a unique spin on it and talk about it from a parent standpoint and how can we be emotionally intelligent with our teens, with our adolescents, with the young people in our life, because the principles fit very well with the focus that we have as parents to teens and how we engage young people. And we know that being a teenager today is very different than when we were teenagers. We know that there's a different approach to parenting today, just from things like technology, right? We have a lot of young people, their faces are buried in screens most of the day. And it's a different type of communication and connection that we need to have with our young people because they are socializing very differently than we have socialized. And that doesn't mean that it's right or wrong, but what it does mean is that we have to step our parenting game up and we have to approach it a little differently than how our parents and caregivers approached us. So let me introduce this topic of emotional intelligence. So this is my definition for emotional intelligence. If you Google it, you might not find it, but I think it's an easier way to really understand the concept and what it means for you as an individual. So I define emotional intelligence as your ability to control and maintain your thoughts, speech, actions, and emotional response, and your ability to do that to the best of your ability. So how do you control your thoughts, actions, speech, and emotional response to the best of your ability? That's all emotional intelligence is all about. It has 4 components, and I'll tell you about what it's about from a parenting standpoint. So those 4 components, the first one is self-awareness, and that's the one we're going to focus on mainly today. The next one is social awareness. Then it's self-management. And then the 4th one is a relationship management. Now, if you're familiar with emotional intelligence, sometimes people will throw in empathy. And I don't throw that one in. So there's not 5 categories with me. And the reason why I don't throw empathy in as its own separate category, because you have to be empathetic in each one of those categories. It shouldn't have to stand alone. And if you're not empathetic with the young people in your lives, you're missing a huge, huge opportunity to really connect and show up for that young person the way that you want to. And this happens all the time. And I know some of us come from some very hard backgrounds, right? We come from, mom and pa, grandma and grandpa, and it's like, the empathy wasn't as high as we would like to have been, right? They were hard on us. They gave us that tough love. But in today's society, with today's young people, that tough love doesn't always work as effectively. Some of us think that we should bring that tough love back. But instead of working harder and being more aggressive on young people, one of the things that I would encourage us to do is be a lot smarter in using our emotional intelligence to connect with the young people in our lives. So as I stated, we're going to focus in on the first area of emotional intelligence, which is self-awareness. Now, Over the last few weeks of this podcast, we've talked about being aware, being modeling, developing boundaries, things of that nature. And all those things go right into the self awareness category of social emotional intelligent parenting. Now, why is self awareness important? Well, in today's world, it's very common for us to look out the window and judge everyone else on what they're doing. We'll see a story on the news or we'll hear about something that happened with someone's child. And then what's the first thing that people say? Where are the parents? Where are the parents? Right? Meanwhile, people's own children are doing things that may not be as bad as what made the news, but they may have the same question being asked if people found out what their young person was doing, which is, where are the parents? Because in our society, we love to look out that window at everybody else, and it's harder for us to look in the mirror at ourselves. And one of the biggest things that we can do for our young people is make sure that as parents and caregivers, we are bringing to the table something that they can't use as a weapon against us, that we are displaying behaviors, that we are displaying emotions, that we are displaying thoughts that are healthy and that are good things that you want your young person to also implement in their own life. And this can be hard for some parents, right? Some of us, again, a lot of this deals with our own background. Some of us come from backgrounds where, you do as I say and not as I do. Well, in today's society, that is a hard thing to avoid and a hard thing to respect for a lot of teens. Because a lot of times the things that you do and the things that you say are not always the most appropriate things, and you don't want your kids to do it. And then to even add it up, to turn it up just a little bit more, a lot of those things are displayed on social media. So not only are your kids seeing those things, but other family members are, other friends are, their friends are seeing it. It's out there for everybody's consumption. So we have to be very mindful of our own self-awareness and what we're bringing to the table as parents and caregivers. So let's talk a little bit more about self-awareness, because self-awareness isn't just about, checking yourself in the mirror. It's also about slowing yourself down. Sometimes as parents, we get ourselves very agitated and energized around trying to correct things and problem solve. And sometimes we have to slow ourselves down and understand, hey, is this one of those things that my young person can learn from just a general life lesson? Or is this something that I have to intervene in? And it's hard because we do care about our kids. We love our children. We want to make sure that they're safe and that no harm is going to happen to them. But sometimes a life lesson may be the best way for them to learn, as long as it doesn't put them in any harm's way. They don't get arrested or physically hurt or sexually hurt, anything of that nature. Maybe sometimes that life lesson is to let them bump their head a little bit and learn, I probably shouldn't do that. And then you follow up as the parent and caregiver to explain why that was not the best choice of actions for your young person. But that requires you to slow down. You can't always be the parachute parent or, as they call it, the tiger mom. We don't have a tiger dad, but in this instance, let's say we be the tiger dad and hop in and try to correct things and make sure that you're being as preventable as possible for your children. That is not the best strategy in today's society with young people, because they have so much access to information, so much access to opportunity to do things that counter what you want them to do, that putting that box around them, putting them in that kind of cage to make sure that they can't get into any trouble may cause more issues than you're trying to actually solve. So it's important for us to keep that in mind. So slowing ourselves down is an important piece of that self-awareness. The next area that's important is understanding what are our values as parents. Values. I mentioned a few things already that, we may have heard when we were growing up and when we were adolescents and young people that our parents and caregivers may have said to us. But what are our values as parents? Do you value healthy communication with your young person? Do you value the respect of time so that young people know that they need to check in at a particular time or be home at a particular time? Do you value privacy? Maybe you're a parent who you don't want your kids all up in your business and you don't want to be all up in your kids' business. That's okay too. Maybe you value respect, and then you want your children, no matter where they are, to show the utmost respect to, any other adults or any other children. What are your values? I think that we don't think about this as parents until our values are either jeopardized or tested, or just plain old disrespected. And then we try to clean it up. But you should think about that. What do you value as a parent, and how do you want to make sure that that is displayed throughout your family, and that your kids have the tools that they need to uphold those values as a parent? And then not only identifying what those values are, but also understanding, why are those values important to you? What do they mean? Some of us, we get our parenting values from our own parents and caregivers, and they might not really mean anything to us. Sometimes they may have been things that traumatized us as kids, and we just kept it with us, and then we just start displaying it onto our own children, even though we didn't like it as well. So it's important for us to do some self-evaluation and understand, well, what are my values as a parent, and what do I expect my young person, in my life, my child, to really display when it comes to my own values? And have I done a good enough job, teaching these values and emulating these values, so that they can, replicate this when they are inside and outside of my home? Like, that's a big question, and that's something that we should always think about. And then the last thing with our social and our emotional and social intelligence, when we talk about self-awareness, that I want to encourage us all to think about, is, how am I presenting? How am I presenting as a parent? Am I the parent who's just a disciplinarian? Am I the parent who doesn't seem like they care? Am I the parent who's too busy for my children? Am I the parent who's just too easygoing, and my kids feel like they can finesse me through anything that is going on? What kind of parent am I presenting as? Am I presenting differently for my different children? I think that that's healthy. I think that you can do that. You may show up, because all children have different personalities, they have different needs and different wants, and you have to show up differently for them. But if you're presenting one particular way, and your children realize and recognize that, especially adolescents, they will do what they call finessing. They will take advantage of how you're presenting. They will learn your parenting style, and they will do whatever they need to do to get whatever they want, because that's what adolescents do. That's what young people do. So we have to keep in mind as parents that we don't want to be finessed. We want to keep a nice, open, healthy communication with our children. We want them to be safe and have fun and learn and grow. But at the same time, we still want them to be children. And we still need to maintain our power dynamic as parents. And in order to do that, one of the best tools that we can utilize is emotional intelligence. So again, yeah, understand your values, know how you're presenting, and then slowing yourself down are those three components to really consider for this first area of emotional intelligent parenting. It is a practice and an art form. It's a science and art, as I like to say, which means that you have to engage in it, right? You can set your mindset around it, but you have to engage in it. So think about how you can imply this today. Think about how you can slow yourself down today and really pay attention to how you're showing up as a parent and what your values are. And are those values being represented in your children or in your child? And then if you feel like you need to make some changes and shift some things, feel free to try those things and see how they work. But do know it's going to take some time. It's not going to be easy. So this is just only area one of emotional intelligent parenting. Next week on the podcast, we're going to get into area two, which is social awareness. So paying attention to the things around you. So with that, we're going to close out today's podcast. And remember, as a parent, you may not be the problem, but you could definitely be the solution. And I'll see you next time. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Teen Whisperer podcast with Jason Clopton, known to his clients as JC the Counselor. Check back every Tuesday for new episodes wherever you listen to your podcasts. Find out more and connect with Jason at ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com.
At Hy-Vee, we take pride of being part of the communities we serve. In 2021, we donated more than 14 million meals, and this year, we're committed to doing even more. For over 90 years, we've been the place that people turn in time of need, and we take that very seriously. That's why we're loading our semis full of food this week and making deliveries across the Midwest to help families this Easter. To join our effort, simply donate when you're at the checkout. Together, we can make a big difference for those in need.
For millions of Americans, the pandemic impacted our financial situations, and a lot of people lost their jobs. But that should not mean you have to lose your house if you can't pay for your mortgage. Listen, no need to feel ashamed if you missed a payment or 2 or 3, because there's a local organization that's willing to help you get caught up on those payments so you can keep your home. Let me tell you about the Minnesota Home Ownership Center. It's a nonprofit whose sole purpose is to prevent you from going into foreclosure. The Minnesota Home Ownership Center has a network of organizations around the state to review everything with you, explain your options, and then advocate for you to get the help you need. And get this, they won't charge you because it's all free. Check out hocmn.org or give them a call at 651-410-1086 to set up an appointment. You worked hard to get into that house. Let Minnesota Home Ownership Center help you stay in it.
All right, did you know I was the Mommy Slam Dunk Champion?
Really?
Yes, really, don't sound so surprised.
Let's see it.
Oh, you're ready. All right, here we go. Let's hear the crowd. So go to right, go to left, fake 'em out. Mama, go up, mama!
She did it.
Again?
You can't avoid gravity, but United Healthcare can help you avoid financial surprises by helping you compare costs and doctor quality ratings. United Healthcare.
Uh-huh.